All right, walk again.
And then the following week, we go for a walk to buy some bread. And that's a whole week's worth of videos.
Yeah.
You'll see why. There are various things happen on the walk, different locations like the church, for example, that are perfect scenes to explore different themes. And every day invites reflection on a passage from Alan Watts's The Wisdom of Insecurity, beginning with, "We do not soil our hands with growing and cooking real food. Instead, we buy products designed for front and appearance rather than content. Immense and tasteless fruit, bread which is little more than a light froth."
This week we go on a walk to get some bread, and we review this book, The Wisdom of Insecurity, a message for an age of anxiety. What's that?
That card there, the Christmas card. It's time to switch from our everyday anxiety to our festive TINSELLY anxiety. Merry Christmas.
The preface opens. "I have always been fascinated by the law of reversed effort. Sometimes I call it the backwards law. When you try to stay on the surface of the water, you sink. But when you try to sink, you float. When you hold your breath, you lose it," which immediately calls to mind an ancient and much neglected saying, "Whosoever would save his soul shall lose it." This book is an exploration of this law in relation to man's quest for psychological security and to his efforts to find spiritual and intellectual certainty in religion and philosophy.
I think that's kind of very appropriate, really.
Without any technical apparatus or calculations for prediction, homing pigeons can return to their roosts from long distances away. Migrant birds can revisit the same locations year after year, and plants can devise wonderful contraptions for distributing their seeds on the wind. They do not, of course, do these things on purpose, which is only to say that they do not plan to think them out. If they could talk, they could no more explain how it is done than the average man can explain how his heart beats. To discover the ultimate reality of life, you must cease to try to grasp it in the form of idols. These idols are not just crude images, such as the mental picture of God as an old gentleman on a golden throne. They are our beliefs, our cherished preconceptions of the truth, which block the unreserved openings of mind and heart to reality. The legitimate use of images is to express the truth, not to possess it. The principle has not been unknown to Christians, for it was implicit in the whole story and teaching of Christ. His life was from the beginning a complete acceptance and embracing of insecurity. "The foxes have holes and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath nowhere to lay his head." The basic theme of the Christ story is that this express image of God becomes the source of life in the very act of being destroyed. Unless a grain of corn fall into the ground and die, it remains alone. But if it dies, it brings forth much fruit.
We're going to go down to the village today. What do you need to purchase?
Bread.
You got your mask then, have you? That will suffice.
At the ready.
I like these thatched roofs.
Yeah, one of our tennis players lives in one of those.
One of your tennis players?
In our club.
In your club.
Can cross over.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Looks like you've got a website and a new email address.
Yeah.
New tennis website.
Yeah.
What's this area next to the Royal Oak just here?
That's obviously a memorial.
I haven't been to a pub the whole time.
It's not something we really do, so...
It's not something you really do. In Minneapolis or anywhere else I would go to the pub. Here's the library. And then here's the church, of course.
So you'll wait outside while I go in here? Because I think you're only allowed 3 people in at a time.
Yeah, I might investigate outside the church.
Okay,
and
so
then you
I'll
can
just...
meet me.
I'll meet you up there.
Yeah, be safe.
3
If-
people in there at the moment.
Yeah, okay, it's a good system.
In a final chapter called Religion Reviewed, Watts concludes, "Thought has moved full circle, and we are again as children. To those still feverishly intent upon explaining all things, this confession says nothing and means nothing but defeat. To others, the fact that thought has completed a circle is a revelation of what man has been doing, not only in philosophy, religion, and speculative science, but also in psychology and morals, in everyday feeling and living. Discovering this, the mind becomes whole. The split between I and me comes to an end. Paranoia, the mind beside itself, becomes metanoia, the mind with itself and so free from itself. Free from clutching at themselves the hands can handle. Free from looking after themselves the eyes can see. Free from trying to understand itself, thoughts can think. In such feeling, seeing and thinking, life requires no future to complete itself, nor explanation to justify itself. In this moment, it is finished. We have been taught, Watts claims, to neglect, despise and violate our bodies, and to put all faith in our brains.
This is the one I particularly like.
£2.90.
This comes from a bakery in Evershot. This loaf, they must buy in the loaves kind of pre-baked and then they finish baking them.
I'm going down to the woodland to finish digging up more roots and then sow a whole load of foxglove seeds.
The special disease of civilized man might be described as a block or schism between his brain, specifically the cortex, and the rest of his body. This corresponds to the split between I and me, man and nature.
They didn't have the one I wanted, so I picked up this one. By the time I got to the till, I could see her coming out of the back of the shop, carrying this, and so on, and I thought, that's the one I want, because I'd already picked this one up, so, and especially at the moment. So I had to buy two.